Erika here with an all new interview for you. This week, I interviewed DaNelle from Weedham and Reap. I got so many requests to have DaNelle on the podcast. She has a YouTube channel with over 500,000 subscribers where she shares her life with her family living on a farm in the big city. I had so many requests to have her on and she did not disappoint. She talked a lot about vlogging. So if you have a vlogging channel or you're thinking about starting a vlogging channel, she has so many great insights in this interview, specifically about having a channel that revolves around vlogging. If you're new here, welcome. Make sure you hit that subscribe button because every single week I have a brand new interview for you. And we pull back the curtain to reveal what it's really like to be successful on YouTube. And I'm Erika Vieira, the host and YouTube strategist, having worked with over 400 women behind the scenes on their YouTube channel. And with this channel, I am coming in front of the scenes to share with you incredible and inspirational stories of successful women on YouTube. So make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single episode, and like this video because it helps the algorithm. Enjoy the interview. Mwah. Well, hello, DaNelle. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to have you. Your channel is so unique, so incredible. I've never had anybody like you with your kind of channel niche on the podcast before, so I'm really excited to dive into it. So before we get into it, why don't you just share with our viewers and listeners what inspired you to get onto YouTube when you did?
Well, I had always loved watching vlogs on YouTube. Back when the vlogs were like the main thing on YouTube, people were just filming their day-to-day lives. I've always been a fan of that, and I've always thought that I could do that with what we do here at our house. Mm-hmm. But I just never really jumped in until I decided I really wanted to diversify my income. And I thought, well, I better just jump in and start it. So, so I just dove right in and rest is history.
And so that was back in 2017? Do you remember when was it in 2017?
I think it was October of 2017. I started doing like the daily vlogging and showing our family and showing everything we were doing on the farm and all that stuff. And then it sort of evolved to where it is today.
So you started it with the idea of it being like a vlogging channel, basically.
Yeah, I did. Although I leaned a little bit more towards how to, because my inspiration were other homesteading channels, and that's what they were doing. So I was like, here's how I garden, here's how I do this, here's how I do that. And so I kind of kept the vlogging aspect of it, but incorporated the how-tos. And then I slowly learned that how-tos weren't necessarily going to drive traffic, even though I know SEO is this big thing, and people think that, if you show somebody how to do something, that's going to bring traffic. But in my opinion, it's 1 in 100 videos that's really going to ever take off. And so what I wanted to do was to build a more loyal following. And I knew that the way to doing that was the way that I would attach to other creators, and that was through personality and seeing parts of their lives and the quirky aspects of that person. And so we started to incorporate that.
So what you're saying is that your thoughts are 1 in 100 videos, if you're going the how-to route, how-to route will take off.
Yeah, I think that people think that they'll get that one, like, here's how you do this, and it'll get like millions of views because we've seen that before. But while that may happen, you're not going to build a loyal audience that way. You just won't. They don't watch every how-to video you make. Even me, as a gardener and a homesteader, I follow other gardening and homesteading channels. I'm their target market, and yet I will not click on everything that they produce. I'll just click on the things that I need to know that day or that moment. So I didn't want that for our channel. I switched from a little more of the how-to stuff to more of a, I guess, reality show or TV show type style. And that's really when our channel took off.
Yeah. So how long into your YouTube journey did you make that switch?
I made it about a year and a half later. I decided to do a full overhaul of how I was gonna do it all, and I just really just I read a lot of stuff, but nothing really helped me as much as me looking at the creators on either Instagram or YouTube that I personally fell in love with, like felt a strong connection with, and I wrote down the things that made me feel like I liked them. They were just cool people, and why did I like them, and like what made me drawn to them, what made them my favorites, what made them the instant they post, I was more excited to see what they had posted. And so I wrote all that down, and then I was like, okay, I got to make sure and hit those elements for myself if I want to be this person that people want to see.
Yeah. Was there a catalyst for wanting to make a change? Because it sounds like you really went in there and you said, hey, with intention, let me really focus and figure out what these people are doing so I can do that. Was there a catalyst for that?
Well, I started to see some of the fellow homesteading channels take a dive in views, like compared to how many subscribers they had, the percentage of views weren't very high. And I didn't want that. I didn't want to hit like 100,000 subscribers, but then only get 10,000 views per video. I didn't want that. I was like, well, there's got to be a way to draw more people in and to make this a more loyal audience. And that's when I started playing around with it.
Yeah, that is one thing I noticed when looking at your channel was that you have a very high view to subscriber ratio. Like you're at a little over 500,000 subscribers at this point. And then your videos get like 200 something thousand. It looks like on average. That's really impressive.
Thanks. I mean, that's the goal that I don't want to just produce content. I want stuff that people love and then are going to want to come back for more. So that's always my first priority.
So in that moment when you were studying other channels and you made that switch, what things then did you change on your channel to go more in that direction?
So one of the first things I changed was the pacing. So it's sort of an art, I guess, or it's hard to like say there's an exact number, but whenever it feels like it gets a little bit slow, I switch it, or I cut it, or we move to a different thing. And so sort of like we've kind of become worse with our attention span online because we're just get stuff all the time. So it's become harder for creators to create things that people want to stay and watch. So that was the first thing. I never talk to the camera and let stuff roll for a long time. Things are always moving as fast as possible. And so I would say that was the main thing for sure.
So changing the pacing of the editing. Do you do your own editing, or do you have somebody that helps you?
Yeah, I do. I used to think that the best thing in the world would be if I could hire somebody to do it, but once I got to the point where things were rolling and looking great and I could afford to hire an editor, I tried it for a while and it didn't work. They didn't quite get what I was trying to do. They would cut out things that I thought were important, and it was just so much back and forth that I was like, well, it's got to be us, because I know exactly what is going to, go off best with our audience. So I had to stick with it.
Yeah. So how often do you upload?
Well, we used to do twice a week, and we recently gone down to just once a week. It's kind of a test. We wanted to see how that would play with our audience, but also we're hitting a little bit of a burnout. It's probably because it's really hot here. We're in the 115-degree weather in Arizona, so we're dying. And it makes it so much harder to go outside and film. We're just drenched in sweat, and there's bugs, and it's really hard. So I thought, okay, maybe this is a good time to go down, and I'm going to test it with my audience and stuff. And they definitely hated it that we went down, even though I made the videos longer. I made the videos twice as long just to give me more time to edit and gather things together. And so I definitely think we'll be going back to twice a week. I feel like that's the sweet spot with our audience, where if we do too many, and what I've seen this with other creators, if you post too often, you sort of saturate their news feed a little bit, and then they get to choose. They get to choose what, well, I don't have to watch this because maybe something better will be up tomorrow. So I like to give them enough of a time so that they're craving it again. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, totally makes sense. So twice a week. So let's go back a little bit to when you made that shift to really focus more on the editing, the pacing, creating more of like a vlog style channel. Was there a tipping point for your channel? Was there a point after starting it? Maybe it was prior to that, I don't know. But there's a point where you're like, okay, this is the thing. We're doing this. Like, we're getting some views. Was there any video or anything that happened?
Well, right after I made the change where I did a little bit better editing and I kept things cut short and I moved it along faster, we did a video on a goat that was giving birth to a little baby goat. And I titled it, she was kind of writhing, you know, goats deliver, writhing, I guess, on the ground. And she looked like she had fainted. And I thought, oh, that's funny because, you know, she's not a fainting goat, but there are fainting goats and people think fainting goats are funny. So I titled it, Don't Faint on Me Now. And like I'm trying to help deliver and like, don't faint on me, goat, you know, you're trying to deliver baby. And so that was the very first video that ever really took off for us. And that one, it went crazy. So I think we got 1 million views within just like a couple months. So we got all this flood of people that subscribe to us. And in fact, most of our subscribers will say, like, I found you from that video. That was where I came. So that just converted really well for us.
So crazy. That's so interesting because it was a title, just Don't Faint on Me Now. That was it?
It was Don't Faint on Me Now, Mama. And then it had in parentheses, I think it says like, you know, goat birth or something.
Oh, okay.
Like,
okay.
Yeah. So there was still that little.
That little SEO thing, just so people or YouTube knows what the video is about. And so I'm assuming the thumbnail was probably pretty catchy to get people to click on something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So she was on the ground delivering, my hands are right here, you know, and like she's about to deliver the baby, but she's fainted. And she was just kind of writhing around like crazy. And so I just used that title. I mean, maybe that's a little bit of clickbait, but it actually went with it because that was pretty rare for the goats to writhe so much as she did. So I was like, oh no, you know, is she fainting? Like, so it went well with it. And it was a cute story too, because it's the cute little baby goat and the whole story about us, and it was fun.
Was that the first video of yours that really took off and got 1 million views?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then after that, we built a swimming pond, and I thought part of the reason why we built it is obviously we wanted one. Living in Arizona, we wanted this like pool to swim in that was natural and everything. But I also thought it would bring in lots of views. I thought, oh, this is a kind of a buzz thing, people building swimming ponds. But it actually, a lot of people will say, I've heard people say like, oh, that's how our channel grew, but that's not. We haven't really had great views from that. It's been kind of like, okay. Mostly it's been from that first video that took off. And then ever since then, with us, it tends to be the birthings, you know, the hatchings, the kittings, you know, all the different things, the new animals born on our farm that tends to take off. But there are other stories too that have done well. If you look at our most popular videos, we have an assortment.
Yeah, when I did look at your most popular videos, when I was looking at your channel, it was, I think the highest views were birthing ones, goat birthing ones.
Yeah.
2.5, I think you have a couple at this point that are at 2.5 million views, and they're about goats giving birth. So.
Yeah. So I mean, definitely that's been working for us because that helps grab the subscriber that would potentially, we could turn into a loyal subscriber. Because I'm never thinking about, oh, how can I get a more, you know, how can I convert to subscribers? Mm-hmm. I'm thinking, how can I convert that subscriber to a loyal subscriber?
Yep.
And I'm always thinking in terms of like, okay, imagine somebody's new. Let's say they saw one video. Now maybe they saw this latest one. How can I get them to just fall in love with us?
So what's your answer to that?
Well, a lot of it is we do something I think that's different than a lot of the other homesteading channels, and we anthropomorphize the animals. So we attach human personality traits to the animals. So if you've ever seen I don't know if you've come across something on Facebook where you see this video of some duck that is friends with a kitten, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as the story is told, you start to like, oh, look how sweet this duck is or whatever. And so that's a lot of how we show our animals. Whereas in the past, we used to show more of the homesteading aspect where like, here's this goat being born, now we raise it, now we milk it, oh, it's time to butcher the chickens. We've switched from that, and we're a little bit more just like a fun hobby farm, I guess. And so we find ourselves in kind of an opposition because the homesteaders don't think we're homesteady enough. You know, they think we're too silly and pets and hobby farm. But then, you know, the vegans or the ones that are like really into taking care of animals think that we're, you know, the fact that we breed them is wrong. So we're in this funny little place with it, but we're happy with where we're at because we believe in doing both aspects. We obviously like to farm in our backyard, but we also like to take care of our animals and not just have them there just to do stuff for us. We like to, you know, hang out with them and take care of them and make them happy. So that combination and attaching those personality traits to the animals have really helped. So people really bond with, they know that our oldest goat is really goofy and she swings her head around and hits people, but she's super sweet too. And then they know that she also always wants to get bred. That's the funny thing we always laugh about. Most goats a little bit like they don't want anything to do with the male, you know, the stinky buff, the stinky male, but she just like runs on over there, and it's just super funny to people. So as these goats have different personality traits, and then we've been able to like attach that to them, people love it, and then they have their favorites, and they're funny to watch. So yeah,
so that's cool. So it's not, you know, for people that aren't familiar with your channel, it's you, your husband, and your 2 children. And I love on your channel banner how you really set it up almost like a reality show. Right? It's like every person's name. And I even saw your channel trailer, and it was really well done because it was almost as if it was like a trailer for a reality show, the way you set it up. Because you gave every person, you're like, oh, you know, this is DaNelle. This is, you know, I forget your son's name, and he's this. And each person, you know, is a character. And I think that's really interesting where you talk about the animals, because now the animals themselves are also characters in your reality show.
Yes, absolutely. And my inspiration for actually, I should mention this, from when we shifted from what we were doing before till when we had success, was me and my daughter used to watch a lot of that Dr. Pol. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's a National Geographic. It's their most popular show ever in the history of their show. And it follows this old vet around, and he's just hilarious. He's this old guy from Sweden or somewhere, and he lives in Michigan, and he just, you know, he's a vet, and they follow all the little animal things, and it's so well put together that me and my daughter laughed at it. We loved it. And as I was watching it, that's where I was like, you know, I could show like this, where we show more of the personality quirks and like we're characters in a reality show. So when I say reality show, sometimes that gets like a bad, you know, stigma attached with it, because it's like all about drama and everything. And we don't really try to do that. We just try to show the funny parts and the real parts of our lives.
Yeah, that's great. And I think it's worked really, really well for you. So how then do you decide what to upload?
Yeah, that's always the tricky part, right? Like, what do people want? Sometimes it's easy because we know something's coming up. And then sometimes I'm thinking, okay, I've got to create something, but really I'm always thinking about the story. I have like notes and notes and notes of the overarching story of our family. So the overarching story would be, you know, this family that's trying to grow food in their backyard in the middle of the city. That's why our tagline is farm life in the city. So we're in the middle of the city trying to have a little farm. And that's the overarching story. But then there's all these mini storylines. So I think to myself, well, what's going on with this animal, or what's going on next here, or what's going on with the pond, and I could list probably 50 different little mini storylines that are running. And So people, I know right now that we've been raising catfish in our pond for 2 years. This whole saga, we put them in there. They didn't get big enough, so we had to change up the food. And then we were afraid to swim with them because we're like, catfish, what if they get us? And it's been fine. They hide in their little cave when we swim. But now they're big enough to catch and eat. So now it's like everybody's like, okay, like, so I know that that is going to be the next step in that storyline. And so I just know what next point I need to hit on in each single storyline.
Do you have all, yeah. Do you have all that written out somewhere, like your storyboards? Okay, this is this storyline. You do. Okay.
I do. Yeah. Very detailed about it. Because I'll often forget, like sometimes I usually wait a couple days and then I spend at least a few hours in the comment section of the last video. And I make sure and I'm aware, what are people asking about? Yes. And those are what drives the next video for sure, because like little things, like we bought these huge broom heads, like massive broom heads. I didn't even know you could buy them, or like you can buy these for for scratching posts for the goats, and it's something that nobody had ever seen done before. So it was funny. We put it up and our pig started eating them. We're like, no, she was like pulling it out and eating it. And so we figured out a way to keep it out of her range, but then I had forgotten to post about it again. And so there was people like, hey, well, wait, what happened with that? Did it work out? And so it's even like a simple, tiny little storyline like that dumb broom head that's next to for a goat to scratch its body on. People wanted, what's the outcome? Like what's happening with it? So, that's just one of many little mini storylines that I try to make sure and keep up with.
Wow, that's so impressive. So you're the producer, the director.
Yeah. Yes.
You wear all the hats.
A lot sometimes, for sure.
Yeah. So what is your average week like? So what's your workflow like to put this production together for two episodes a week? Well,
now it's nice because having just one episode is nice because I have like the weekend to relax and gather. I do a lot of other random business things that, as you know, just take forever, like little tedious tasks. I can get that done. But the cooking portions of the vlog are super easy for me because I'm already cooking and I'm already growing things in the garden. So I grab stuff from the garden and I cook it. And cooking for me is like the easiest thing to do, and I can just film it. I would love to bump up like the quality of the cooking videos, but it's just one more thing to do, you know? So I'm like, well,
it's working.
Yeah, it's good. So for the cooking segments, I do fine. But then we just start planning out. I start listing, and then we kind of have like a family meeting where we're like, okay, what should we film next? What do you think is most important to people? Do you think people will like this? And sometimes it's usually a combination of follow-up, like I said, on the storylines, and then an introduction of something new that's going on that they weren't expecting. And the best thing about animals is you go out and you film, and then things happen that you were not expecting to happen. And so even we're surprised. We go out and we expect, okay, this is probably what's going to happen. And then things go a little crazy or change. And that's always great, you know, because it's fun.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're very deliberate with the filming. So it's not like you guys all have cameras all week and then you at the end of it figure out, okay, what can I extract from this? There's a lot of planning prior to even whipping out the camera.
Yes, absolutely. And I used to do it the old way where I just whip out the camera, walk around. And then I realized when I was editing that it wasn't giving me the results of what I wanted. And so I started, I always have like an intro scene so people can get a context. Where are we on the property? Like, oh, we're out here. Got it. And then I move towards, usually the opener of that segment is somewhat confusing on purpose so that people are like, what are they doing? Like, what's going on? So then their brains are working. They're trying to figure out what we're doing. And then here's what we're doing. Here's some action. And then I usually like to incorporate some B-roll and different things. So I do plan that out now because I find that it makes it easier to edit in the end. If I take the camera and I just start walking, it's just a little harder to put it and package it together good. So,
yeah. Are responsibilities handed out throughout the family when it comes to the YouTube, or are you really the person doing everything, the filming, the editing, the producing? The planning.
I do it all.
You do? Okay.
Well, it has been my thing, and people, I don't think I'm even the favorite on the vlog. I know I'm not the favorite, and I'm okay with that. I like to do YouTube because I like the strategy involved, and I like the income involved, the fact that I can create this thing. That's where the success comes from for me. But so my family are like, they're like the stars. Everybody loves them. But really they're just there doing it. Like they're just involved. I'll go ahead and tell them what needs to be done, and then they'll say, okay, well, maybe we could do this instead. Sometimes they'll just don't want to do it. So I'll be like, okay, we won't do that. We'll do something else. But yeah, mostly it's me that's running the show. And so I can.
That's impressive. So at what point did your channel actually make a real income for you? Because it sounds like this is what your whole family, your husband as well, this is what you guys are doing full time is YouTube, right? So at what point was that a reality for you guys?
Well, before I ever did YouTube, I ran a blog. And so that was, I wrote about like how to raise goats and how to milk goats. This was way back in like 2009 when I started that. So that pretty much, we were already making a full-time income with that. And so my husband already come home, and we had paid off the house. So we were like, hey, like you can quit your job, you can come home. He's an engineer. And we're like, let's just do this. And it was about that time that I'm like, we should really do YouTube. I think that could be a really good income source to diversify, so we're not so reliant on the blog. And and then it just took off for us. So I mean, YouTube, I feel like YouTube's just like a cherry on the cake. Like it's just a topper, because we don't really need the income, but we do it because we obviously want to put it into retirement and put it into college funds for our kids and stuff like that. And we also like to help out family and stuff. So, so I what was your question?
It was at what point was this, through your YouTube channel, basically making you guys money?
Oh, at what point? Yeah. At what point was it like, so I would say about right after it took off. I think we were at 100,000 subscribers, and then it took off. So we had slowly got our way up to that point, and then it had taken off. And at that point, it was like a pretty solid, like full-time income.
Yeah. Do you still blog?
No, I don't anymore. The blog actually still brings in traffic. It's the same traffic for years now, just from my past how-to articles and all the SEO practices that I spent forever doing. But I don't really hang out there anymore because
everyone's on YouTube.
Do way easier on YouTube. I mean, I could put up a video and make way more money than I could on, blog.
So when you first started your channel, then did you already have an existing audience from your blog that came over, or did you find that you're really just kind of starting over?
I pretty much started over. I tried to get I tried to petition my, newsletter people and then the blog, but I really was just, I started out with like 3,000 subscribers on YouTube channel, which had been up there from maybe like a bread making video I had put up. So it wasn't, and they weren't really watching my stuff. They were just kind of there. And so I feel like I started from scratch, but I did have a little bit of a head start for sure.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. That's great. That's really cool. Okay. So now we're going to get to the last part of the interview, which is the hot seat round. So essentially speaking, I'm basically going to just list questions and you respond with your first answer. So don't think a lot about it. So I got to pull it up here. Okay. What is the favorite video that you have done on your channel?
Oh my gosh, I know I should answer this fast, but probably my favorite one is it's one that actually doesn't do that well, but it's when we release these ducks into the wild. We raise these ducks and we release them. I just love the storytelling in that. For a time, I got really into storytelling, and I think I did really well in that. But I don't know if the views really translate it, but I love it.
Yeah, I mean, what's so interesting is that sometimes for a lot of creators, their favorite video isn't necessarily the highest viewed video.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, next question is, and I think we talked about this already, what is your highest viewed video on your channel so far?
I think it's definitely the goat birth video. One of them. I have a lot. So it's one of those. Yeah, for sure.
What is the biggest opportunity you got as a result of your YouTube channel?
Biggest opportunity. Well, I mean, we've definitely had production companies and we've had Netflix reach out for different things, but and while we've been in talks with them about stuff, we tend to turn them down because we like to being able to control, everything that we want to control and how we're portrayed. And we also don't want to my kids aren't the type of kids that actually like to be on camera. They don't like to be on social media. They don't want to build a following and be an influencer. And so maybe that's what makes them so good on the channel, because they don't care about that. Yeah. But so I think if we were to ever do some kind of big TV spot or Netflix show, I think that our family would suffer because our kids don't really like that. And I wouldn't want to force them to be in the spotlight that much nationally. That would be crazy.
Yeah. So, yeah. I was actually wondering that. Yeah. Sorry?
Yeah. Yeah. I was just going to say, but for other people, that might work out great for them because that might be exactly what they want. But I don't think that's for us.
Yeah. I was thinking that when you were talking earlier, I'm like, I wonder if they've ever been pitched about, making this an actual network show or cable or Netflix or something like that.
Yeah, we have. Yeah, we've had quite a few different networks reach out, but it's a few of them we pursued a little bit and then it just wasn't right. So.
What about working with brands? Do you guys work with brands at all?
Yeah, we do. We definitely have brands approach us and we do little sponsorships. We try to really keep it to like maybe one a month, if that, because we just don't want to like overload our audience with stuff. And I try to keep them really funny and creative. And then, our subscribers don't mind at all. So they've been super supportive about it.
What is your superpower that you have that you think has helped with your success on YouTube?
I think I'm pretty creative. I think I've always been that way since I was a kid. I had a really wild imagination and I had all these little sisters. I was one of the oldest and had all these little sisters and would create these elaborate games with them. And I think that that's really helped me because I have the brain that can kind of think of, you give me like one idea, it's like a bubble map, and I can think of like 20 things that could go with that or that could be funny or entertaining. And I think that's helped hopefully keep it creative. I think my one fear is that it gets boring or it gets repetitive. And so I'm always thinking like, how can I keep it exciting and keep it creative? And hopefully I'm doing that.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely takes a skill. I mean, in another life, you could have probably easily been a TV executive, producer, because it's the same skill. Yeah. That's awesome. If you were to start over right now, what would you do differently?
Wow. Let's see. What would I do differently? Well, I would definitely just dive right into trying to be like creative and fast pacing and storytelling. I spent a long time holding the camera and walking and talking. And I wish I wouldn't have done that. But of course it's a learning process and now I've learned not to do that.
Yeah. What is the number one struggle that you deal with when it comes to YouTube?
Definitely the time it takes to produce a video. I'm always amazed at how long it takes. I mean, not even filming, but just like pulling it all together and editing it and, finishing it where it's finished and it's up and you've got your thumbnail and all that. I'm like, I'm shocked every time. I'm like, oh, it shouldn't take me that long. And it always does. And I'm always happy with the end product, but I'm like, oh, the time that it takes. Crazy.
How many hours a week do you spend on your YouTube channel?
Well, I'm definitely planning and filming. We probably get like maybe 2 or 3 hours of footage. So that's the time we spend filming. But I spend a few hours planning, and then editing easily takes me, for a 10-minute video, it'll take me a full day, full 8 hours.
Yeah. Yeah, I believe it.
to just sit and pull it together and throw all the parts that I need to. And then sometimes I'll have to go film extra parts. And yeah, so if I'm doing a big long video week, I've definitely got a plan. I've got 2 full days that I've got to sit and edit to put it together. So yeah, that's just, there's no cutting it down. I've tried.
Well, you tried by going to 1 video a week.
Yeah, I did try that. I made it a little bit longer, but I definitely think people would rather have shorter videos than have it more often. So we'll definitely go back to that, and it'll be fine.
Yeah,
we'll fit it in. So
yeah. And then last question: what is your unfair advantage? So everybody has their own unfair advantages that has contributed to their success. So what would you say yours is?
Unfair advantage. Oh gosh, I'm trying to think of it. I have a lot, actually. I have a lot of things I feel like we got really lucky in. I think we got really lucky in that we were able to buy this house. Where we live is sort of a ritzy area, which is kind of laughable why we have like goats in this area. But we were really lucky to be able to get this plot of land where we live, because it's just land is crazy expensive in Arizona. Like everything's like packed in, and everybody's in these little tract homes. So I would say just finding this house, getting it for like the price we got it at right before the market like went crazy. I mean, we just got lucky, and I feel like that really helped us because we had just this perfect like canvas to do whatever we wanted, and that made all the difference for sure.
It's the backdrop to your show.
Yeah,
it's your set.
If we'd never done that, this wouldn't be our vlog. We wouldn't be doing it. So
you wouldn't have found a somewhere else, like a plot of land somewhere else?
I mean, maybe. I'm just saying, like at the time, it was a pretty bold move for us to make. We were already way deep. We kind of bought a house earlier at the housing crisis, where we had it was like 2000. When was that? It was like
2008, 2009.
Yeah,
yeah,
it was something like before that. We bought our house like way too high, and we couldn't get out of it. And we ended up being able to get out of it by selling it to a relative who just took over the loan for us. And then that made us able to buy what we bought, but we wouldn't have been able to because we were kind of in over our heads on the other property. So yeah, we got super lucky with that.
Awesome. That's awesome. Well, you know what? I definitely think for you guys it was meant to be, because you have definitely created something incredible on YouTube, and I'm sure changed so many people's lives as a result. I mean, you have such an incredibly loyal audience. For that many people to tune into every single one of your episodes is
it's crazy. Like, you try not to think about
phenomenal.
It. It's a little bit scary, but yeah.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much. You gave so much information. You obviously are a wealth of knowledge, and I really appreciate you coming onto the show. Can you share with our listeners and viewers where they can find you and your channel if they're not already familiar with you?
Well, yeah. So we're on YouTube. Just go ahead and search Weedham and Reap. And then we're also on Instagram. That's primarily where we hang out.
Awesome. And then we'll put all the links in the down bar below. And if you're here on YouTube, comment below. Let us know, what was your biggest takeaway from this interview? Does this make you, excited to maybe try vlogging or apply any of the strategies that DaNelle suggested? Let us know in the comment, and make sure you like and subscribe. All right. Bye. Thank you so much. Thank you for having us. All right. Bye.
Bye.